Looks like we might be live. Do you want to check and see? Okay, guys. Good afternoon here. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. We're going to be talking today on the live show here. The show's going to start in a couple minutes. Just did an audio check. We're going to be talking about what we've learned in the year, what we've learned this year so far. We're going to be talking about change. We're going to be talking about tunnel vision. We're going to be talking about awakenings. And we're going to be talking about some of the things that you can do before December 31st to make some changes in your life that could allow you to feel more powerful and kind of recoup for some of the issues from this year. Because I think that it's always good to, try and, I know that a lot of us have had some great things that have happened this year and some of us not so great. And then there's been a combination. Change has been huge. There's a lot of things that have been happening. A lot of those things that we did not choose ourselves, right? And so I like to end things on a good note, on a positive note. And I think that, feeling more powerful in your day-to-day life and doing things like that can be very good and really can go a long way to feeling good about where we are. And so I hope this show helps you today and connects with you, and would love in the comment section here, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube, let me know some of the stuff that you have going on as well. Maybe some of the awakenings that you've had, some of the ways that you've dealt with things. This is a community here and we all learn from one another. And so I just resonate with a lot of what y'all are saying as well. And I appreciate your comments. So please comment when you get a chance. And we can rock and roll from there. Later on in the hour, Dan Nelson will be joining us, and we're going to be going back into history, and we're actually going to be talking about Kentucky Whiskey Empire later on down the road too. So, it's always good to think about history and to connect with history. So let's have some fun with that later on in mid-hour around the 1:30-ish time. But we'll be talking right now about what we've learned this year, kind of 2020, taking in its totalitarianism and, things to change and things to augment and things to be aware of. I think it's going to be valuable. So, and if you do have any thoughts, definitely add them into the comment section. George is here in studio, and so he can also respond as well, and vice versa. So we're going to have some fun today on the show. Glad that everybody's tuned in. The show is going to start here in just a few seconds, so we will rock and roll here. And if you haven't checked it out, we just put up a new video about an hour ago on YouTube. How does the mind trick us into self-sabotage? How does the mind trick us into self-sabotage? It's a good one. I hope you connect with it. I like the content of it. We are all striving to live our true life, and part of living our true life is learning about our past. Passing knowledge and family history down to the next generations help those generations to learn where they came from, who they're related to, and to learn about the accomplishments of their ancestors. We've all seen the commercials on TV where you buy a kit, spit into the plastic tube, and receive a few morsels of information that need a lot more connecting of the family dots. Instead, how about hiring a true professional to help you find out your true full family history? Dan Nelson is the resident historian of Live Your True Life Perspectives, a professional who does more than looking you up on the internet and compiling those small bits of history. He travels the country doing research about things your family deserve to know. Check out Dan's website. Go to dancestorsgenealogy.com. That's www.dancestors genealogy.com, and give the gift of your family history to your family today.
You're in a good place now. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Glad to be back today. And we have a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about what have we learned this year, 2020 so far? What have we learned this year? I know that many of us would agree that this year has been very different from other years. We've had different challenges than we've had before. And quite honestly, we're learning things that we've never learned. We're going through situations in our life that we've never gone through. We're experiencing change. And as we know, change is the only constant in our life. Some of us love to hear that, and some of us can't stand that comment. Because change can either be good sometimes or not so good. Change can be overwhelming sometimes. Change can be a great thing, or change can really take us off target. But all in all, we've realized that change is constant. Many of us have dealt with this change that has been given to us this year, these cards that we have been dealt. And we realize that change can change on a dime without any warning. We realize that we won't have that warning and we have to kind of like figure it out. We've had this massive world change. Some of us have had loss of family members. Never ever expected it. Some of us expected it, but we never thought it was going to happen now. Some of us have dealt with the loss of job security. Okay, it was something that we didn't expect, but it happened. It wasn't something that you wanted, but it did happen. And some of us are dealing with the losses of resources. Some of us are also dealing with the loss of identity. Who am I? What's changed in my life? Where am I? What's going to happen next? And some of us, we feel like we're good with change. Others of us not good with change. What's going to happen now? What's my life going to look like? Some of you have taken jobs in different places. Some of your family dynamics have changed. Your living arrangements have changed. The day-to-day has changed. Some of you are working from home constantly. You never thought that you'd see the day where you wouldn't go into the office. Many of you love to travel and you haven't traveled since early this year, and that's been interesting. And I find that these changes go a long way to defining who we are, to feeling who we are, to understanding our direction, but better yet, really trying to figure out, what are the things that I really want to hold on to? And what are the things that I feel like I can let go of? And I know that that's one of the big deals. What am I willing to hold on to? What do I want to hold on to? What do I really want to put into my stratosphere? What do I want to define me? What are my boundaries? What are my values? What are my ethics? What are my morals? What are my beliefs? And then how do I tackle the different things that are coming in my life? Do I accept it? Do I reject it? How do I reject it? How do I accept it? How do I know that this resonates with my highest frequency? How do I know that this defines me? How do I know that I'm okay with that? And so I'm asking you right now, there's some things that we want to take into consideration, and maybe some things that you haven't taken into consideration in a long time or if ever, defining you. What does it mean to be me? What does it mean to feel me? What does it mean to be like me? What does it mean to walk through this earth on this planet with me? What am I wanting to get out of this? What do I want to change in my life? What are the things that were changed for me? Okay, am I still good with those changes? Are there some changes that I want to make to those changes? A lot of times we get into what I call tunnel vision. And when we have massive change that happens very quickly and changes are put upon us, like what happened this year, we have like massive, massive tunnel vision. Because we begin to, for many of us, we either fight the change, right? We fight it with all of our might. We fight it. We rebel against it. We do anything we possibly can to not allow this to affect our life. Some of us, I'm going to accept the change. I'm going to accept it. I might not love it, but I'm going to accept it. And others of us, just change is kind of easier for us, right? We just get into it. We fall into the change. We're used to it. Okay, we can't leave. We can't do this. We can't work from home. We can't work from the office. We've got to work from home. We've got to wear a mask. We got to do this. And you go, okay, yeah, I can do this. And eventually you start getting that tunnel vision, right? Where all of a sudden this new normal becomes the normal. And some of the things fall by the wayside. Okay, so the new normal that becomes the normal, we have this routine. And we begin to close off with this routine sometimes, right? And I know that some of you are probably agreeing with me right now saying, I dealt with the changes and, I tried to deal with them as proactively as possible because I didn't really want to get angry about it because I didn't really want to do that in my life. I didn't want to have all this anger and resentment in my life because we know that anger and resentment and pain only really affects us, right? It just affects us to the core and we can't compartmentalize it. I know that anytime that I've been angry, it's like you can't compartmentalize it. You just get angry with everything and everybody in every single situation. It's not like, okay, I'm going to be angry about this, but not angry about that. And so a lot of us had just accepted it, right? Many of us didn't like it, but we accepted it. And so when we got into that routine, we fell into this new normal, but it became easy to close off from people that we really care about. It became easy to close off from people that we're near. It became easy to do things differently, right? To not reach out, to forget to reach out, to forget to reach out to friends, to family, to not put a lot of effort in there to communication, to forget about it. And it's interesting because I think that when we're all dealing with what I call like the survival moment, right? We're all like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? You forget about a lot of things that matter to you just a few weeks before. And I think a lot of times when things change immediately, very quickly, we lose sight of what's really happening. We lose sight of the things that fall by the wayside, and we lose sight of the things that we really care about. And so, how do we begin to kind of reacquaint ourselves with the past us from earlier this year? And I'm not saying that all of this has to change, because some of the new norm for you might actually be very helpful to you. Some of the new norm to you might be more realistic for you. Some of the new norm for you might be more, I don't know, healthy for you. But that's to determine. Because I think you want to sit there and break down what has really changed in my life. What has changed in my life? And I think that I got a text earlier today from a friend of mine, and they reached out, and it was this really powerful text message back, and it was really sweet, and it was just, hey, I really care about you. You're one of the best friends I've ever had in my life. And they went on to say, hey, I woke up to realizing that there was a lot of folks in my life that didn't really have my best interest at heart. I realized that things have changed. And they asked the question, have you experienced that? And I think many of us have. I'm sure that many people that are listening to this show here, whether you're listening on KBDT or on USA radio networks around the country, you understand. You've been there. You understand that there were people that you were really, really close to back in March of this year that you don't even hear from. You haven't heard from once. And I ask you to really think about that, because we have to reach out ourselves, right? We can't just expect everybody to reach out for us. But if you have reached out multiple times and you've kind of gone on deaf ears, or it's just been a dead end, how do you deal with that? How do you accept that? How do you reconcile with that? And I think that it takes us to really go deeply within ourselves and ask us questions. Have we made changes to who we want to hang out with, to who we want to spend time with? Who are we spending time with? Who are we hanging out with? What are we doing in our day-to-day life? Who are we spending the most time with? Who do we have the most face time with? Okay. And how important is that to you? I've realized that when we deal with massive amount of change, especially when it's not change that we created ourselves, it was change that kind of happened to us, right? It's nothing like that change that just happens to you, oh, wow, here we go. We kind of get a little overwhelmed, but I think that a lot of times too, when we're focused on that survival or what we need to deal with, we kind of just jump in and we get really quickly into this routine. And so what I'm asking on today's show is just to begin to really analyze the routine. Is it working for you? What are some things that you can change right now with the routine? What are some things that you can bring back from your previous normal into your new normal? What are some things that you want to get rid of all completely with this new normal, and really think about it? What are some things that you feel have been put upon you that you no longer choose? It's really just a deep thought process into your own mind, your own psyche, what you prefer, what you don't prefer. This isn't about anybody else on the planet. It's about what you want. In the end, we have to make ourselves happy. In the end, the only reason we're here, the purpose equation, when people talk about purpose, it's always like, well, my purpose is to save everybody on the planet and to end human suffering, or to end the human starvation process. And I agree with you. I want to end human suffering. I want to help people really realize their value. I want to end suffering. I want to end hunger. But the purpose is really to understand you fully, and to understand and accept you, and self-acceptance fully, so you can actually unconditionally love yourself, not BS love yourself, not narcissistically love yourself, but to really understand that. That's the key. But how do we do that? Well, we have to get into the depths of our mental psyche. We have to understand what's really going through our head. I've talked about this before. Many of us know the people in our lives a lot better than we know ourselves. We understand what makes them tick a lot better than we know ourselves. Some of us know better, like even friends that we see maybe once a month, we understand them better than we understand ourselves. And why is that? I think that many of us get bored or scared of what we're going to find out if we actually spend time. But most of us are just bored hanging out with ourselves. We feel like there's nothing there to learn. There's nothing there to grasp. I've learned everything. There's nothing there. I'm just me. And then I just pray to God that I have people around me so that they can entertain me, so I don't have to be by myself. And I've done multiple videos on that. And I've talked about the value of learning about you, the value of connecting with yourself, the value of what it means to really understand yourself. Because it's kind of like, I'll give you the analogy. It's like sitting on the couch with somebody that never speaks to you. You know, I was like, what if you had a friend that came over and they're like, hey, what's up? And next thing you know, you don't even speak to them. You don't look at them. You don't communicate with them. You're not interested in anything about that person. Well, that's what we do to ourselves most part, right? We come home or we're at home, we're doing our thing, we're working, we make dinner, we watch a bunch of TV, we go to bed, we do it all over again, rinse and repeat. But where is the concept of trying to figure out what we want? And so today, if you would like, would be a great time to analyze the new routine that you've created here in the last few months. Be able to analyze what is missing. What are some things that are missing since a few months ago? And what is missing? And out of the things that are missing, what do you miss? Okay? What do you miss out of the things that are missing? And this is a big question. Because some of us don't miss that much, but some of us don't even know what we miss. We don't know because we haven't even asked ourselves. We've been too just dealing with the day to day, the hustle bustle, just dealing with it, accepting it for what it is. And I'm okay with accepting things, but I want to know exactly what I'm accepting. I want you to analyze as well. You know, are there some folks that you miss? Are there some people on that list of people that you need to reach out to? Doesn't matter what they do. It's not about the outcome. It's about doing the right thing. You know, we hear ourselves. The first person to hear what comes out of our mouth is us, right? Yep. The first person that sees what we do is us, you know? And so we have to analyze that and realize that that's important to recognize. And so if we want to really make some changes, or we want to analyze that, or we want to reach out to people, doing that is powerful. Whether or not people reach out to you, well, that can help you determine the folks that you do want to spend more time with. But think about that. What is missing? Let's begin to analyze that so we can bring some of that back into our life. Because I know that a lot of you have had awakenings, and we're going to be talking about that here later on in the hour. Dan Nelson's going to be joining us. We're going to be talking about the Kentucky whiskey empire from back in the day and going back into history. History is a lot of fun. You know, history always kind of puts in perspective, right? We always feel like what we're going through is like the most horrible time on the planet Earth, which is not. You know, we feel like we're the only ones that are going through any of this, which we weren't. And it's interesting because at the time it just feels larger than life, right? But when we put things into historical reference, it always gives us an interesting, eye-opening effect to that. But, you know, we'll be talking more about awakenings when I return, the awakenings of the values of what's changed in our life, the awakening to who we are, the awakening to our identity, the awakening to what we consider quality time. And I bet that has new definitions for many of you out there, right? Because there's been a lot of quantity, but has it been quality? We'll find out more about that. If you haven't already, check out the website, ashleyburgess.com, ashleyberges.com, and live your true life perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time in 2 shakes. We are all striving to live our true.
Hi, my name is Reginald Harvey, and I'm a wellness champion. Self-determinance is my preferred way of living whenever possible. But life just throws challenges in our path that don't fit our personal plans. How do you bridge these life road bumps? I just published the medical memoir, Anatomy of a Patient, as a journal of my battle with the life-threatening illness, stage 4 renal failure. I have learned that disease is just the clinical definition of the sickness, whereas illness is how we choose to live with it. In my case, I immediately had to decide whether to run and hide and wait to die, or to dare to live. No, dare to thrive. Join me in a conversation that few are willing to have. You can hear me on Live Your True Life Perspectives with Ashley Burgess. For more information, go to reggieharvey.net. That's REGGIE Harvey.net.
Money, 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 money. You gotta have it. When you need it, what do? If you don't have a rich uncle, call Lending Tree. With us, hundreds of banks compete for your business, so you'll get loans with competitive interest rates, and in some cases, with no closing costs. So here's the deal. If you need money, call us. Do you want to refinance your current loan? Are you 62 or older and interested in a reverse mortgage? Then call Lending Tree now. 800-634-1315. 800-634-1315. We've closed over $250 billion in loans. We know what we're doing and can help you. Call right now for a free quote. 800-634-1315. 800-634-1315. 800-634-1315. That's 800-634-1315. NMLS number 1136.
We are all striving to live our true life, and part of living our true life is learning about our past. Passing knowledge and family history down to the next generations help those generations to learn where they came from, who they're related to, and to learn about the accomplishments of their ancestors. We've all seen the commercials on TV where you buy a kit, spit into the plastic tube, and receive a few morsels of information that need a lot more connecting of the family dots. Instead, how about hiring a true professional to help you find out your true full family history? Dan Nelson is the resident historian of Live Your True Life Perspectives, a professional who does more than looking you up on the internet and compiling those small bits of history. He travels the country doing research about things your family deserve to know. Check out Dan's website. Go to dancestorsgenealogy.com. That's www.dancestors genealogy.com, and give the gift of your family history to your family today. Okay. A couple seconds before we start. Kinuki about to be back on.
Get in here. You're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Glad to be back today, and today we've been talking about what we've learned from this year so far. I know that this year has been very different from other years, obviously, and we know that change is the one constant in life, and many of us have experienced multiple changes in our life, many of which we did not create the change, right? The change was put upon us, and usually that's the toughest change, right? Is the change that's put upon us. Like, we have to deal with it, but it's not like we chose the change, right? We didn't choose anything. It was there. It was like, hey, okay, everything's changing. Your new normal is this right now. Okay, we're going to start doing that new normal in 3 days. You ready? Okay, let's go. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, and we're trying to deal with it. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do next. And we had to make a lot of changes in our life. Our routines changes, our work changed, all kinds of things changed. Some of the stuff we liked, some of the stuff we didn't like. Some of the stuff, it just became our new normal. Some of the stuff we just was like, well, I guess I'll just deal with it. And then some of it, over consistency and repetition, became normal, right? And right before the break, I was talking about how many of us created this tunnel vision, right? We had this tunnel vision of what we were dealing with. We got that tunnel vision of the routine or forgetting things that we had or was important to us before we had the situation. Closing ourselves off maybe more than we need to, not realizing it, not reaching out to folks, family, friends, what have you, and kind of almost isolating to a degree and not realizing it. Because we're just following what we have to follow. We're doing what we have to do. And I know that many of you are like, man, I mean, I asked you to do something right now. And I don't know about you, but if you're a big phone person and you have like a lot of text messages that you don't really, you don't erase or anything like that, go back in those text messages. If you can go all the way back to like March or April or February, check it out. See the difference in the communication. Go back on your Facebook, on your social media, and see what was going on in January, February. Look back at last year too. Start getting some analysis of what was going on then. Is there anything that was missing now that you really want, that you want to bring back into the now? Really go back and check it out. I mean, Facebook is a good thing if you do Facebook. Instagram is a good thing if you do Instagram, because it really gives you an eye on the prize kind of thing of what was going on back then. And then analyzing from then to here, what's happening now. And I like to go back to my text message. I'm a big believer in not erasing text messages unless I want to or have to, but I like to go back and see what was being talked about. I like to go back and see who was communicating all the time. Is there a difference? Have things changed? You know, and right now I want to talk about awakenings. Okay. I want to discuss that because this leads me into the concept of awakenings. Awakening on many multiple levels. Many of you have had abundant awakenings. Some of those awakenings, most awakenings, are kind of facilitated around procrastination, fear, rude awakenings for some, stress, anxiety, overwhelmed feeling. All that stuff comes with awakening, right? The aha moment after a lot of stress and anxiety. And I think that many of us have the awakenings on many levels when it comes to the value of family members and friends who have been there throughout this time. Some people might have stepped up to the plate that you never even thought would. Some people may have never stepped up to the plate that you never had an idea would not. Interesting awareness. The people that you never expected would, and the people that you always expected to be around that went, well, silent. They went AWOL. Nobody there. Gone. Some of us have realized the value of being able to connect with family members. Some of us recognize the value of our furry friends, right? Our pets, and how valuable they are. And I know that many of you knew the value of them before. I'm not saying, oh, we just now figured it out. I'm just saying, but now we actually begin to see even more the value. We cherish it even more. And so when I return, I'll be talking more about awakenings. Also, Dan Nelson is joining us mid-hour in just a few minutes. We'll be jumping on a call with him as well. And then at the end of this show, I'm going to be giving you 4 tips of things you can do to make this end in a great note, to have a great end of this year, okay? So stay tuned, because Live Your True Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time in 2 shakes. We are all striving to live our true life, and part of living our true life is learning about our past. Passing knowledge and family history down to the next generations help those generations to learn where they came from, who they're related to, and to learn about the accomplishments of their ancestors. We've all seen the commercials on TV where you buy a kit, spit into the plastic tube, and receive a few morsels of information that need a lot more connecting of the family dots. Instead, how about hiring a true professional to help you find out your true, full family history? Dan Nelson is the resident historian of Live Your True Life Perspectives, a professional who does more than looking you up on the internet and compiling those small bits of history. He travels the country doing research about things your family deserve to know. Check out Dan's website. Go to dancestorsgenealogy.com. That's www.dancestors genealogy.com, and give the gift of your family history to your family today.
USA Radio News with Tim Berg.
As lawmakers head back to Washington, D.C. on Monday, lots of things need to get done. Government funding runs out December 11th, and a COVID bill is still on the horizon if they can get one done before the end of the year. As far as a stimulus bill, Republican Congressman from Kentucky, James Comer, believes we need a very targeted approach to a stimulus bill.
We need to have targeted stimulus. The restaurant industry, I think that's the one industry that there's bipartisan agreement that there is a desperate need for assistance. But we have a situation in Washington where Nancy Pelosi, she doesn't want to do targeted stimulus. She wants to do another blanket stimulus bill and give money to everyone. And
Comer speaking there on Fox News. The second victim of a mall shooting in Sacramento, California has died. The suspect is still at large, and police believe this was an isolated incident. You're listening to USA Radio News.
America's founders knew power corrupts, and ultimate power corrupts ultimately, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's why they built in checks and balances to prevent any one group from seizing all power.
And that's why our president is elected by a college of electors to protect the rights of little states like Delaware and Wyoming against giants like New York and California. After all, our country is a republic, the United States of America, not the United State. Our states are independent sovereign powers who created the federal government, not not the other way around.
And that's why all power ultimately lies in we the people and the states, not a central dictatorship of cronies. Did you know that? Thank God for the U.S. Constitution.
Find out more how our amazing Constitution and Bill of Rights protect us, the citizens, against power-crazed politicians in Washington. Help us take back America. Go to ouramericanrights.com. Brought to you by the American Media Council.
We are all striving to live our true life, and part of living our true life is learning about our past. Passing knowledge and family history down to the next generations help those generations to learn where they came from, who they're related to, and to learn about the accomplishments of their ancestors. We've all seen the commercials on TV where you into the plastic tube and receive a few morsels of information that need a lot more connecting of the family dots. Instead, how about hiring a true professional to help you find out your true full family history? Dan Nelson is the resident historian of Live Your True Life Perspectives, a professional who does more than looking you up on the internet and compiling those small bits of history. He travels the country doing research about things your family deserve to know. Check out Dan's website. Go to dancestorsgenealogy.com. That's www.dancestors genealogy.com. And give the gift of your family history to your family today.
Hey, travelers, do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call, because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. Our prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find ridiculously low prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next flight. Guaranteed. Also, save up to 50% off business and first class tickets.
800-871-3291. 800-871-3291. Again, that's 800-871-3291.
Turn it up and jump in the deep end on Perspectives. Now, here's Ashley.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Glad to be back, And today we're talking about the changes of this year. I know that many of you have experienced these changes. They've been overwhelming for some. Some of you are like, wow, I can't believe that I have dealt with all these changes and I'm still alive. I'm still here. And, I find it interesting. I was talking about this right before the break about, the awakenings that many of us have had and the awakenings and what we've gone through to have those awakenings. The awakenings are like those epiphanies, but a lot of times the awakenings come from what? They come from stress. They come from anxiety. They come from things that we didn't experience. They come from things that we didn't expect. They come from a learning curve. Any awakening is created by a learning curve. Okay. Something has to change. We have to become aware of something or multiple somethings, right, to have an awakening, right? An epiphany of value, an epiphany of where we stand, an epiphany of who we are, an epiphany of who our friends are, an epiphany of who we want our friends to be, an epiphany of any of that. All is directly related to something that we awoken to and realized based on some changes of analysis of what took place. I know that a lot of us are having awakenings on many levels, realizing the value of our job and the value of our work and how much we value it. Maybe we didn't realize how much we valued being around the crew at work. Maybe we didn't know how much we valued being around the other people at the office. Maybe we didn't realize that. Some of us are now valuing maybe the fact that we don't have to be in the office, and we're valuing the fact that we don't have to drive to the office every day. And we're happy about that because we got tired of it. Perhaps we got tired of all the office meetings and the things that we didn't really want to deal with. And now, for the first time, we don't have to worry about it. We can work from home. We can do the Zooms. We can do all that. Some of us are realizing the value of family. Some of us have lost family members. My household has lost family members in the last few weeks, last month. I have friends that have lost their family members in the last month. Relatives who have lost their family members in the last month. And it's been an awakening for many of us. And so it's like, at what point do we realize the value and how do we show that value? Because I believe, I'll take a little example. I know that a lot of folks have reached out to me and said, hey, I didn't realize, how much I was compartmentalizing my life, how much I was working at the office and coming home late and, eating dinner and going to bed and doing it all over again. I didn't realize really the value of my family. I also didn't realize what was really happening in my family. I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't paying attention to other people's issues. I wasn't paying attention to other people's problems. I wasn't paying attention to other people's feelings. I also wasn't paying attention to my feelings. I wasn't realizing where I stood. I didn't realize what I wanted. I wasn't paying attention to any of that. And now I've had to, because it's right in my face. There's no way around it. And I think that has really put a lot into perspective for a lot of people. What about the value of our furry friends, our furry pets, and how we value them, and how they change our lives, and how they add to our quality of life? And we are their end all be all. Without us, they cannot survive. And so when realizing the power that we have over that, we have to wield that power in a good, solidly positive way. You got to do the right thing. And that's powerful. And I know that a lot of people have adopted animals in the last few months, and I hope that you still have them, God willing. Because an animal it's a long time and it's a good time, but the value that comes with it has to be cherished and acknowledged. The value of our quality time and the awakening to that is powerful as well. The awakening to our quality time. What is quality time anymore? What does that mean? What do we do in our quality of time? I know that some of you are like, wow, I don't even know what to do anymore. What my go-to reaction is like looking at my phone. It's funny. It's like I've worked so hard to try to stop looking at my phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I've done a pretty good job. And I got to a really good point at restaurants where I didn't look at my phone at all. But now the only restaurant menu you have is one that you have to pull up with your phone. Changes the whole dynamic. I was like, I worked really hard to stay off my phone when I'm eating with folks, and now you want me to have to use my phone to be able to see the menu. This is counterproductive. Can't read those menus anyway. You got to scroll up and down on the little phone trying to figure it out. Can't see anything. I don't know. It just puts me on my phone, and the next thing you know, I'm looking at Facebook. Maybe there's some, I gotta figure out what to order. Oh, I'm not supposed to be looking at Facebook. I'm not supposed to be looking at Instagram. I'm not supposed to be looking at YouTube. I'm supposed to be focusing on what I'm supposed to order. But I think a lot of us are realizing what quality time is, or realizing what quality time isn't. Some of us are realizing that we spend time with our family members, but none of it's quality time. A lot of us are just going through the motions. We're on the computer, we're on the phone, or, we're just kind of zoomed out, we're in our own brain, thinking about our own stuff. What does quality time mean? And these are the questions that you have to ask. Nobody can answer these for you. I can't answer them for you. I can give you some ideas. I can give you some concepts. I can give you some knowledge. I can't answer them for you, though. That's where you come in. And that's where the power of the individual is, because we're able to analyze what matters most in our life. What do we care about most? What's most important? What do I want? But better yet, how do I create actually quality time in my own life? Whether it's quality time with your family, quality time with your friends, quality time with your dog, cat, bird, or quality time with you. I know that many of you haven't even been focusing on the last one. What do you mean with me? When we talk about self-care or meditation or prayer or just doing things for yourself and being able to analyze who am I and what do I feel, that's quality time for you. And that's what we're talking about. Later on here at the end of the show, I'm going to offer 4 things that you can do. 4 things that you can do before the end of this year to make yourself feel even better about yourself and to bring up that power level and to really feel good to end the year on a positive note. Okay, so I'm going to bring that up here in just a bit, because I think it's time for us to think about some new normals, some new things that can empower us. So stay tuned, because I got some nuggets of wisdom here at the end that I want to share with you. Some things that can really build up the spirits and go a long way to walking into the next year with our head high and feeling good about ourselves. Now I'd like to talk about the perspective of history, the historical perspective. And, when we think about perspectives, when we think about the historical perspective, we realize that things have changed. But have they really? Sometimes they have, sometimes they haven't. When we actually go back and realize that history does have a tendency of repeating itself, it can be pretty powerful. Dan Nelson, our resident historian, is here live on the show. Dan, great to have you today. How are you doing?
Doing great. Ashley, glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you today. And I know that we're going to be talking about, well, I guess we're talking about alcohol, more specifically Kentucky whiskey, I presume. Tell me more about our historical perspective when it comes to this?
Yeah, I thought since there's so much alcohol consumed around the holidays that this story would blend in well. And it does tie in to other stories because this is actually an ancestor of one of my clients. So remember Bobby Staggs that got kidnapped by his father, George Thomas Stagg, the adventure reporter? Well, George Thomas Stagg is the grandson of the person we're talking about today. So if your grandpa owned a distillery, then you might have enough money that you too can choose to be a adventure reporter for a living. But the description of George T. Stagg whiskey, which is a name that is been used continuously. This was from 2015 when it was voted number 3 of the top 65 spirits of 2015. If you want your guests' eyes to pop out of their heads in a fit of bourbon ecstasy, this is your bourbon. So good stuff.
It sounds pretty powerful.
Let's talk a little bit. Yeah, it's good stuff. This George T. Stagg, he just started out with pretty humble beginnings, really. He was a clerk in a shoe store in Kentucky, and then he went enlisted in the Union Army. Started out as a private. Within 4 months, he was up to first lieutenant. So he moved to a corporal and sergeant pretty quick. He was a captain a year later, and he actually served as a adjutant general when the other guy got killed, sort of a temporary one, for General Ambrose Burnside, which Burnside is where the term sideburns comes from. He was the mutton chop general. So he came out of the Army in St. Louis, and he became a liquor commission agent, and he met up with a guy named Colonel Edmund H. Taylor Jr. And of course, Colonel was, there was a lot of these honorary titles, so he actually wasn't the colonel who, did anything particular in the military. But they went into business together, and bourbon aficionados would know the name Old Taylor as a whiskey. And so he had this distillery called the E.H. Taylor Distillery, and they had the leading top-notch brand of the day was OFC, or Old Fire Copper, and he owned that. So him and Stagg sort of got together and started working on, distilling stuff together. Had some loose affiliations and stuff, but Taylor, he was the man of the day in terms of sort of dominating the distillery business. And even though he owned one of the top brands, which required a lot of investment, he bought another one that was called the Old Oscar Pepper Distillery, which, again, bourbon aficionados today would know that as the home of Woodford Reserve. And then he continued to borrow money and put money into his distillery, Taylor. And by the way, he was the great nephew of President Zachary Taylor. So he had some old-time connections there. But he was selling whiskey futures to the same people. So he'd say, like 2 years from now, when this whiskey's ready, you loan me the money now, and I'll give you the profits from that, or, the revenues, and giving different people different receipts for the same whiskey. So eventually that caught up with him when the Panic of 1873 happened. No different really than when people get into trouble today. Too much debt, too much betting on everything continuing to get better, too much overinvestment relative to future revenue. And of course, the other bad thing is when you're selling high-end whiskey and you have a recession or depression type economic situation, people trade down, to whatever was the cheap whiskey of the day, or homemade whiskey even, and don't buy the Old Fire Copper, which was the expensive premium brand. So he went out and tapped his buddies, the other wealthy people, and said, "Hey, can you loan me some money just to get through this?" But then a bunch of rumors got started. He sort of disappeared for a week. The story was, he left to Europe before he would get, caught with all these financial hijinks going on and stuff. And they examined the books, and he had about $485,000 worth of excess liabilities relative to his assets. So he was technically bankrupt. But he did something then that you wouldn't probably see anybody do today. He ran a big essay in the paper, basically saying, or the paper ran one, and he responded to it by basically saying, look, if you'll work with me here, you'll end up better off than if you pull me into bankruptcy. So they worked with him and did that. You know, his creditors, he got some investments from some foreign investors and some, you know, people here in the United States. Basically, under the premise, look, I got a good brand here. I just need to weather the storm, and I'll give you something in place for it. Well, so about that time, George Thomas Stagg, who was far more of a businessman than he was a distiller. Taylor was a distiller, not such a good businessman. Stagg came along and said, hey, how about I get you afloat here? And also, just to give you a little background, Stagg was a Union soldier, definitely had Unionist tendencies. Taylor was Old South and had Southern sympathies. So they weren't like best of buds or anything like that, but they knew each other well. They're both in the same business. So Stagg took control of all of the holdings that Taylor was involved with. And so Stagg ended up with 3,400 shares out of 5,000. And Taylor himself, he got one share. So it was at that point a little out of balance. And clearly Stagg was the boss and Taylor was the employee. And meanwhile, Taylor's son had another distillery and another brand of whiskey that he had developed. And that was acquired also by Stagg. But then Stagg, over time, sold shares, you know, divested himself from where he was at. And they came up with a deal in 1886 because Taylor was eager to stop being an employee and wanting to be a whiskey producer again. And Stagg was diversifying. So they came up with a deal where they gave him, for his share, his single share, which was worth a lot, but it was a single share, the distillery that had belonged to his son, and it was rebirthed as the Old Taylor distillery. So Old Taylor, which is a very popular brand today, came about from that deal, so that you know, we wouldn't have Old Taylor whiskey probably today if they hadn't sort of worked out that deal. And then Stagg went on from there and was a successful investor, but really never made any other big moves. Again, though, if you're into if you're a bourbon aficionado, you would say, well, this George T. Stagg guy, what happened to him? What happened to his distillery? Well, today it's known as the Buffalo Trace Distillery, which is sort of the premier place to visit, one of the premier places to visit, and supposedly the continuous oldest distillery operating in the United States. They were even open during the Depression.
That is awesome. Wow, I learned a lot today, and Dan, I appreciate it. If you were learning anything about whiskey, you learned a lot today on the show. Live Your True Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess. We'll be back this time in 2 shakes. We are all striving to live our true life, and part of living our true life is learning about our past. Passing knowledge and family history down to the next generations help those generations to learn where they came from, who they're related to, and to learn about the accomplishments of their ancestors. We've all seen the commercials on TV where you buy a kit, spit into the plastic tube, and receive a few morsels of information that need a lot more connecting of the family dots. Instead, how about hiring a true professional to help you find out your true full family history? Dan Nelson is the resident historian of Live Your True Life Perspectives, a professional who does more than looking you up on the internet and compiling those small bits of history. He travels the country doing research about things your family deserve to know. Check out Dan's website. Go to dancestorsgenealogy.com. That's www.dancestors genealogy.com, and give the gift of your family history to your family today.
Hi, my name is Reginald Harvey, and I'm a wellness champion. Self-determinance is my preferred way of living whenever possible. But life just throws challenges in our path that don't fit our personal plans. How do you bridge these life road bumps? I just published the medical memoir Anatomy of a Patient as a journal of my battle with the life-threatening illness, stage 4 renal failure. I have learned that disease is just the clinical definition of the sickness, whereas illness is how we choose to live with it. In my case, I immediately had to decide whether to run and hide and wait to die, or to dare to live. No, dare to thrive. Join me in a conversation that few are willing to have. You can hear me on Live Your True Life Perspectives with Ashley Burgess. For more information, go to reggieharvey.net. That's REGGIE Harvey.net.
We are all striving to live our true life, and part of living our true life is learning about our past. Passing knowledge and family history down to the next generations help those generations to learn where they came from, who they're related to, and to learn about the accomplishments of their ancestors. We've all seen the commercials on TV where you buy a kit, spin into a plastic, and receive a few morsels of information that need a lot more connecting of the family dots. Instead, how about hiring a true professional to help you find out your true family history? Dan Nelson is the resident historian of Live Your True Life Perspectives, a professional who does more than looking you up on the internet and compiling bits of history. He travels the country doing research around things that your family deserve to know. Take a moment now and contact Dan at 214-914-3598. That's 214-914-3598, and begin to learn your history today.
This is Jake Busey, and you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Glad to be back. And today we've been talking about those changes and the things that we've learned this year. Dan, I loved his historical perspective. I never knew that much about whiskey, period. I'm not a whiskey drinker, but I definitely like to learn about that kind of stuff. You know, it's always interesting to go back into like the 1860s and know what was going on back then. The historical perspective is very interesting, and we as individuals can work from our historical perspective of things that have changed in our life, things that we have awakened to, and stuff that we can actually acknowledge into our future life. And so right now I want to offer 4 things that you can do before the end of this year, you know, to actually, you know, rectify any sort of negativity you feel this year, or reaffirm, add power into your life, or even be able to start the following year in a better, powerful place of mind, or in a more mindful place. And so no matter if this year has been great for you or this year has been tragic for you, let's see what we can do, or somewhere in the middle, let's see some things that we can do here in the next few days, the next few weeks, basically in the next month, that can maybe change the trajectory of those things. The first thing that we want to do is we want to analyze one thing. We want to find one thing that we want to achieve, just one thing. One thing, that's all. We want to find one thing that we want to achieve before 12/31. What is that one thing that we want to achieve? It's not something that's huge. It's not something that's going to take over years of our life, but something that we can do in a month. What is one thing that we can achieve that we've been putting off? Something that we've been putting off that we want to do now. Something that we can actually force ourselves to do. And I know that some of us, I know it. I know what it's like to put things off. I know what it's like to procrastinate. I get it. I understand that. But one thing, try to work on that one thing. And so, you know, put up a list. Think about it. What are some things that you've wanted to do? What are some things that you've always wanted to do? What are some things that you can do in this time if you really just focus? And I know that you have work and you have responsibilities and you have other stuff in your life, but think about that one thing, and that's going to be really powerful. Okay? One thing. And I'm working on it myself. I don't give out advice that I don't take personally. I don't. I want to see if I can do it too. That's why I'm doing it. So I started on something, and I'll be able to talk about it once it's done. I'm one of those things, I don't like to talk about things before they're done. I don't like to talk about, I don't like to count my chickens before they hatch, right? So I like to definitely do what I say I'm going to do, walk the walk, talk the talk, and then I'll definitely tell you about that one thing that I've achieved that I wanted to before the end of the year. The next thing is that I want you to ask yourselves, is your energy in the right place? Is the energy that you have, is the energy in your focal point and what you're putting your energy into, is it focused on the right things? Is it? Think about it. Your energy, your focus point, what you focus on, the direction, kind of all that energy that you're putting into it. Is it the right thing? Am I putting it to the right people? Am I putting it in the right place? Am I focusing my energy in the right place? Are there some other things that I need to really focus on in my life that I want to do? Are there some things that I can refocus on? Are there some things that I've realized that I'm self-sabotaging myself? Am I self-sabotaging? Am I putting my energy into some of the wrong places? Self-sabotage is a big deal. Many of us are self-sabotaging ourselves on a daily basis. We don't even realize, and we're putting a lot of energy into it. I just recently put out a video on YouTube. How does the mind trick ourselves into self-sabotage? Just went up a few hours ago. Please check it out if you get a chance. It's a part tour, and the part one is in there as well. But the thing is like, how does our mind trick us into that? And so if we're putting a lot of energy and expending a lot of our energy into things that aren't really helping us and hurting us, how can we change that? Okay, how can we work on that? And why does it start in the first place? The only way we can stop self-sabotage is to understand where it began, right? Check out that video. How does the mind trick us into self-sabotage? It's on YouTube. It just came up just now on Ashley Burge's channel. The third thing that we could do is create our own new tradition. Okay, I know that a lot of us are saying that, well, our holiday traditions have changed because of the whole situation. But is there something that we can do that we can challenge ourselves to create a new something? Something new, something way out of the box, something we haven't thought about, something that really is kind of cool. Like, what is a new tradition that we can create? What is something that we can do that we didn't even think we could do? So instead of feeling like our hands are tied or, my freedoms are taken or whatever it is, and I understand, I'm not sitting there arguing with you. I agree. Life has changed. What can we do? What can we do to feel more powerful? What's something that we can do that we can start making a tradition to some degree? Start it now, work it out, have some fun with it, and make it a tradition that, goes over the test of time. We don't have to always look at the past for traditions. We can create new traditions. And last but not least, I ask you to pick up the phone. Pick up the phone and call some people you haven't called. Don't wait for them to do it. You do it. Don't wait for them to make the move. You make the move. Do it, because you know what? You're going to be the first one that hears you on the phone. If you're leaving a text message or a voicemail, you know what I mean? You care. Reach out to show folks that you care. Don't worry how the response is. You're doing it because you care, and that's all that matters. Stay tuned. We'll be back next week. If you haven't already done it, check out the website, ashleyburgess.com, and live your true life perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time. 3 shakes. We are all striving to live our true life, and part of living our true life is learning about our past. Passing knowledge and family history down to the next generation. Have a great rest of generations to learn where they came from, who they're related to, and to learn about the accomplishments of their ancestors. Okie dokie, guys. We are just turning off the audio to the stations. So we just turned that off right now. I just wanted to comment a couple of things real quick before we go off. Because I know that just had a couple comments. I hope that this is really connected with y'all, thinking about a new tradition, thinking about something that you can do right now to start that, gives you power, feels good about it, something that maybe you haven't thought about in the past, picking up that phone, talking to friends that you haven't spoken to, something like that would be good, that would be advantageous. But also, there's a lot of folks out there. Remember, a lot of us get, tunnel vision. It's not the fact that they didn't care, maybe it's about the tunnel vision. And it's like we all get tunnel vision to some degree. Okay, so go back and look at it. Who are some of the people that maybe have kind of fallen off that you haven't talked to? Reach out, pick up the phone, be the person that does it, take the leadership role. Think about the energy. Where are you placing your energy? Where is that energy going? And last but not least, that one thing that you want to do before the end of the year. And I'm working on my thing, but I'm going to tell you when it gets done. I don't like to talk about things until I do it, because I'm a big believer in, there's doing it and there's talking about it. We can talk about it a little bit, but really to me, it's like, I want to do it. I want to feel that. And I don't want to just talk about it. I know that I spent a lot of time in Los Angeles, and I have a lot of friends they're writing that screenplay. They've been writing that screenplay for 10, 15 years. Right. And I get it. I'm not putting that down at all. I mean, I've written multiple screenplays. Okay. I've written 4. But I get it, but I didn't talk about the screenplays while it was done, because it's so easy to talk about things before they're done. And then you kind of start putting the cart in front of the horse. And when you do that, it kind of takes away the desire to do it. You're talking about it so much. I've also realized that in order to harness our energy and not procrastinate, we got to kind of keep putting that carrot out, dangling the carrot. Guess what will happen when we get this done? What will be the feeling that I have when I get that done? What good will this do? What power will I bring? Who will I help? And kind of focusing that. That's always been more impactful to me and more powerful than the other way. Some people like to talk about what they're going to do before they do it, and it empowers them. It's not work for me. But yeah, so think about those kind of things. Also, get in touch with the routine. Is this a routine that you like, or are there some changes you want to make? Are there some things that have left out of your life that you definitely want back in your life? And that's to be determined. I think really analyzing what is missing. And some of it might not be anything that was there before. Some of this might be new terrain for you. But see, that's what's so great about it. Sky's the limit. Why do we even analyze? We don't want to limit ourselves. We have a tendency of limiting ourselves from what we've had in the past. Well, this is what I had in the past, so this is what this is what I'm comfortable with. But why do we always have to limit ourselves from what we had in the past? I think it's interesting when people say, "Well, I want to go back to the way we were." Well, was the way you were really great? I mean, or should we make some changes and be better than we were? Because sometimes the way we were wasn't that great. It might have been great in our own mind. We might have crafted it in our brain like it was so great, but was it really great? Or was it just we were saying that those times were better than now? I mean, we really need to put it in perspective. So it's like, when I think about that, when people talk about going back to the way it was, or, it was so great back then, historical perspective, what I'm saying? When people say, oh, well, I remember 30 years ago when bread was 50 cents, or whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, but we can't go back. Was that so great? And then what can we learn from right now that can empower us to be better than we were 5 years ago, more powerful and better than we were last year? And I think that many of us are on that trajectory right now, realizing that change is constant and just analyzing what are the things that you want to bring into your life? What are the things that you feel are missing? What are the things that have left your life that you want to bring back? What are some things that you never want to bring back? What are some new things that you really like about your new way of doing things? But what's missing? And analyze that, and how much, depth are you getting to know yourself? I'm not just talking about giving your best to your family and friends. You need to work on you too. And I harp it just because I've been there. I've done it. I went through it. And it was painful at first to get to know who I was and to really catch what my brain was telling me and to catch that self-sabotaging stuff that was going through my head and be able to analyze that and understand, oh, that's why I do what I do. But it's like when I finally got to know that, it made it a lot easier because I was happy with what I found out. Was it awesome? Was it always rainbows and unicorns? No. But it was better to know and to understand because the knowledge is power. Anytime that we understand where we stand in a situation, doesn't it make it easier? Isn't it great to understand where we stand with ourselves and why we stand there? Because a lot of times we have some stuff that we've held on to for a very long time, making judgment calls on ourselves, putting ourselves down, and then acting from that, and then creating sabotaging, actions and activities and stuff because we are down on ourselves. And to some degree, we want to see ourselves fail. And we are the best at self-sabotaging. I mean, you feel like other people can put you down. You can put yourself down way more than other people can put you down. And I think that's to really think about. And I know that some of us, the self-sabotage might not be as big as going out and, going on a drinking spree or going up and calling the drug dealer or, that kind of sort of thing, spending all the money or, gambling, or it can be small things. It could be, not getting enough sleep, not eating, choosing not to eat, starving yourself, not even realizing, I can't believe I'm starving, constantly starving yourself. It's a lot of things. Self-sabotage can come in small packages and big packages. It's all the same thing. Some of it's more in your face, some of it's more like I'm on a death wish. And some of it's more like, I'm going to do this undercover. I'm going to slowly hate on myself undercover. We talk about haters, but what about us as our own haters sometimes? Okay. And that's volatile because you're looking at other people to do it, right? You're waiting for other people to do it. But what about you? What if you're secretly hating on yourself and doing small little things or even big things to constantly take yourself off target and make life difficult for you? I mean, it's one thing to look at our toxic relationships or relationships that are having hard times, but it's the other thing to look at the relationship we have with ourselves and understand what that dynamic means and where do we go from there and how do we heal that? Okay. And that's what my whole entire YouTube channel is about, really, is trying to figure that out, and once we start figuring that out, then we realize what we will and won't accept from ourselves. And then we realize how to heal those issues. And then we realize what we will and won't accept from other people. Because, we can only be so positive as the negative person around you. And I'm not saying that you become the people around you, but I'm saying it's really hard to stay in the present moment and positively mindful when people around you are not. Okay. It's hard. It's like quitting smoking, but everybody in your house is smoking. Very hard. You quit smoking and 4 people are smoking around you. You know how hard that is to quit and stay quit? It's hard. I mean, you have to have like major, you got to be right on that trajectory. You got to be extremely mindful, and you have to have that, the goal, your mind, your eye on the prize. And that can be really hard. Most people can't do it. It's mostly impossible for most people. Now, some people can, but you begin to resent the people around you. Okay, to some degree, right? Just like when you're trying your best to do what's right, to make things work, to put forward your all, to do the right thing, and people around you are not doing that, eventually you're going to stop doing it. You're going to soften on what you do, or you're going to be resentful, or you're going to let go of certain people, or you're going to distance yourself, or you're going to change that relationship because you realize that you don't want to hold on to resentment, but yet you don't want to deal with that on a daily basis. And these are all food for thought right now. It's all food for thought. This is all just stuff to think about. I mean, because if you want to be in a place that's positive and life-changing and goal-oriented, you can't surround yourself with people that are not doing anything. You can't. I mean, I wish you could. I mean, I've tried it before. It doesn't work. Yes, you can have all the direction and focus, but eventually when you're surrounded by that day in and day out, it's going to rub off on you some way or another. The same thing is with toxicity. The same thing is with sabotage. The same thing is with, when you're around people that are constantly sabotaging themselves, they're going to pull you into activities. Now, you have the ability to not get pulled in. Okay, it's not like you get just forced into this. I mean, we can all make our decisions, but it's harder. So it's like we really got to focus on what do we want to create? What do we want? Where do we want to go? And I think that by achieving that one goal that you want to achieve before the end of this year, I think you can really put yourself into a place of being on point of where you need to be to start the momentum. Okay, because that's what we want. We want that momentum. Once you get a little momentum of doing something, I mean, I know you got to go to work and you got to take care of those responsibilities. I get it. I understand. But I know that when you do something, you create something that's really powerful for you, that creates some momentum in your life. And if we can step up on that momentum and really work on that momentum and don't let the momentum go, we can create a lot of really valuable things in our life. Also, people around you will take notice as well. Okay. Some people might make some changes to their life that'll be really powerful for them. And it'll also help you because you're around them. And so it adds momentum. So they see you do it so they can do it. Share this with some folks that share this with some family members, get everybody on the same footprint. Where are we going? What are the direction? And really get people focused. Because if they know that you're going to be making some changes and they see that this is really important to you. And you're like, hey, I'm going to work on this. And this is my motivation. This is my direction. That might inspire them as well. Now, there's some people that might not get inspired, and some people that will also question you, some people that might hate on you for this. So you got to really be aware of it. You give people an inch and you see what they do. If they take a mile, then you understand. They do it again, then you need to figure out how far you're going to deal with this and how long you're going to deal with this. But I think more often than not, at least half of the time, the other people are going to be like, you know what, this is inspiring me. Or you know what, this is really getting me to look at my own backyard and realize, God, I got to make some changes. Okay. Or you know what? I'm really inspired by what they're doing and I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to try to figure that something out for me too. And if you're getting the opposite and the naysayers and that sort of thing, that's something you got to figure out. That's something, how long do you want to spend time with that? What do you want to do with that? Do you want to own that? Do you not want to own that? And then how much distance do we need? And what can we do? Because you can only fortify yourself so much. And I believe that, when we keep our eye on the prize, we can do anything. Some people have created some amazing success, in basically in situations that were extremely toxic. And there's some people that are what I would consider heroes to be able to come out of the lifestyle and the situation they did and be able to walk the walk, talk the talk, and inspire. Okay. But what I'm saying is let's try to make it a little more easier on us. Well, we don't have to fight so much. And that's all I'm saying is that I agree. I mean, overcoming adversity is awesome, but sometimes it's nice to be able to understand where's the adversity coming from and how do we minimize that adversity? because it's hard enough to achieve our goals and to do things that we don't even know if we're able to do it because we question our own ability, which is also self-sabotage. But when we question ourselves and then being looked at constantly, you're never going to do this, you can't do this, or why do you think you're going to do this? So this is all a waste of time. Why constantly deal with that? It's like I get it, but if I could limit the amount of adversity that I'm dealing with, especially with my inner circle, that would be great for me to be able to create more and to be more successful. Sometimes we need the adversity. Some of you out there need it. You need it to get it. You need it to be able to light the fire under your butt and do what needs to be done. And I totally get that, but you need it all the time. Some of you work very well under pressure, and I understand that too. Okay. But we have to start realizing, okay, I work very well under pressure. I can do this, but how much pressure do you need? And how do you facilitate that mindset to create that pressure to do the right thing, to do what you need to do? Okay. And that's all that you got to think about is, what do I work best with? Who am I? What is my value system? But better yet, what do I connect with the most? What does my personality connect with the most? It's not cookie cutter. There's a lot of success books. There's a lot of books out there, but some of them, they're not going to connect to you at all. They have no validity for you. And so you have to think about that. And that's why I'm offering the show, today on, what we've learned and understanding, how to awaken to who we are. Because that's the real big thing. That's the big enchilada. In the end, once we know who we are, well, we've kind of figured out one of the big purpose pieces. And then the rest of it is integrating that knowledge and being the best we can and moving forward day after day and doing what's right for people in our lives, for animals in our lives, doing what's right by the environment, doing what's right for ourselves, doing what's right. But also loving ourselves in an unconditional way and being able to accept that. And once we can understand where that self-sabotage comes from, see, that's the connection between the brain, the thoughts, the mind, right? And once we understand where that is, we understand where that goes, then we can do the whole, inventory and starting to let those things go so we don't keep producing the same results. I hope that y'all have had a great, great, great weekend so far. I know that many of you have taken off some days for Thanksgiving, and I hope that maybe there's been some thoughts of gratitude as well. I know that many of us have gone through some trying times. There's been a lot of overwhelming change. But if we can find a silver lining a little bit, it can really put us in perspective and it can make us feel hopeful again. And that's what matters. I hope your Thanksgiving has been great. I hope that the rest of your weekend is good. We look forward to seeing you next week as well. We will be here no matter what, even if Notre Dame preempts the show. We will definitely be here, George and I. And so we look forward to seeing you. If you have any comments or any thoughts on today's topic or any thoughts or comments on future topics that you would like me to address, I would appreciate that. And we'll definitely read through those comments. I appreciate your input and your perspective because that's what matters. And as I get to know more about you, it's powerful because, it's interesting. It's all about being able to resonate and be able to connect. And many of us can learn from one another. All of us can learn from one another. It just depends on if we want to or not. But, it's powerful when we come together in community and not let things divide us. I hope the show has helped you. Please share it with your family, friends. If you haven't already, if you are on YouTube, please like this or also subscribe to the channel. It would be awesome. And check out our latest video as well here on YouTube and let us know. Look forward to hearing from you. Much love, much respect, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Love you. Bye.